Alrighty, guys, here we are for welcome back to the League of Inches podcast. We couldn't help ourselves, could we? I feel like we said our goodbyes last week for just the regular proceedings, but it was an exciting and a massive grand final last night. I think everyone's got a bit of a rugby league hangover, whether you were drinking or not. Just that hangover feel today. It's just been a very big afternoon, evening, night into today where so many talking points and everyone's just non-stop spoken about rugby league. I was actually driving back from Sydney today and I have not seen that many Broncos jerseys in my life. Every time we stopped or every time a car drove past, it had something to do with the Broncos on it. So really cool atmosphere and to see things happening all around the place. I obviously, as I said last, didn't go to the game. We were just watching our hotel, things like that with the family. But just cool to see everyone in and about and here to talk, obviously, plenty to discuss on the show tonight. But luckily, I did put the call out to the boys. I said, is anyone keen? We probably should wrap the grand final because it was so big and so good. We should go and just do something. And I was very surprised. No, not entirely shocked because he always ends up stepping up. But everyone was out apart from this man that I've got with me. So Trav was very happy probably not very happy, but happy to come on board and chat all things grand final, which I hope everyone is happy about. Look, there'll be some very good, interesting talking points tonight, no doubt about that. But we'll get stuck into it. And just firstly, I did see some scenes yesterday. I spoke quickly to the owner of the Caxton Street Brewing Company, and that looked like it was an amazing scene last night. So shout out to our sponsors there. And he did mention there was a few people there that mentioned the podcast and things like that and thanked us for what we're doing here. And it's starting to get out to you viewers and you're starting to go there and watch games and talk footy, things like that. So really do appreciate you getting behind us and effectively getting behind them as well. And it was a great atmosphere there last night. But Trav, how's things, mate? I just want to sincerely ask you, obviously a grand final is a massive, massive thing. And I know last year you were pretty gutted. I want to know how you are. It's basically 24 hours on now from the result. How you been with this one?
I went to bed last night with a big sigh. I turned over to the wife and I just
went.
What time? Pretty much. No, I had a late one. Ended up trying to get off my. I didn't drink. I haven't had a drink properly for months, but well, yeah, I had to go and play PlayStation just to get my mind off it, to be honest. Yeah, I was pretty gutted, Like, oh, yeah, that's just the way it is. Did
you play the rugby league game and beat the Storm beat the Broncos like 200-0 or something? Is that what you did? On the easy mode?
I did go on Rugby 26, but only for about 20 minutes. But that game sucks, unfortunately. I try to play it, but no, I get on Age of Empires. I like playing that at the moment. I'm nostalgic 90s game that I used to play when I was a kid. So no, I got on that. But I did roll over to the wife and I said to her, I did a big deep sigh and I was like, I've really been hoping for a lot of this year that I'd be going to bed tonight as a premiership winner. And unfortunately, it wasn't to be. So it is what it is. I am glad that I know you'd be glad that you've just left Sydney, New South Wales, because I hear that there's a cup shortage down in New South Wales and Victoria. And so if you live down that way, don't take your own cup from home. BYO cups, because Broncos, NRLW, Brisbane Lions, and the Queensland Maroons own New South Wales and Victoria at the moment. So there's a bit of a cup shortage down there.
Yeah, it is. Look, it's definitely didn't feel like a happy state. New South Wales. I was in there the last few days, but I felt the buzz really ramp up today. Basically, just driving home with a bunch of Queenslanders who are absolutely over the moon at the moment. So congratulations to you. Really deserve it. And just a quick shout out. We'll talk about plenty to do with the NRL side of things tonight, but shout out to the NRLW game as well, who I thought that was an absolute cracking game. I watched all of it. Shout out to the ladies who put on a huge show. Mele Hufanga, who won that award, was absolutely sensational yesterday. Women of the match, I think she ended up having 18 tackle breaks in a single game. That's stupid numbers. That is absolutely insane. When you can outshine Upton, who still had one of those games herself, she was everywhere, you absolutely were on fire. And credit to the Roosters girls. There was a couple of times they could have probably fallen away, but showed their true grit, showed why they were undefeated for the whole year, and just managed to stay in the game. Got ahead at one point, but the Broncos and the quick other last one is Gail Broughton, the number 6 for the Broncos, who I thought was so dangerous with the ball the whole time. I was watching it with my uncle, who hadn't watched too much of the NRLW, but he kept saying, who is this girl? She's a freak type thing. And she was absolutely sensational. So, Trav, I'm not sure if you caught too much of the NRLW, but it was a fantastic game. And shout out to the Brisbane Broncos NRLW side.
I watched the whole game. I've watched a fair bit of NRLW over the year, but not enough to sort of talk in depthly with things. But I do enjoy it, being a girl dad myself. But I really enjoyed the game yesterday. At halftime, I think, what was it, 12-0 going in at halftime, and I thought, oh no, this is an omen for the Broncos for the day. And full credit to the Roosters. They came out and just absolutely blew the Broncos off the park early. And I actually thought that they were going to get up, and just, unfortunately, just a bit of Broncos class and a couple of key injuries, which, holy moly, how those girls didn't get taken off for HIAs just blows my mind. Like what's number 10? The name's gone past me. The face egg that she had. Holy crap, off that head knock. Like, that was a head clash off her own teammate. And then they didn't show the replay of the other girl who had the egg above her eye, but man, that was as big as my head. I just looked at those things and just thought, holy geez. And then is it Koenig that who the way to get up off that leg injury that she had and keep playing? Unreal. But unfortunately, the Roosters couldn't get up. But full credit to the Bronx. Yeah, and the man of the match performance, she was just a monster. She was just unstoppable. Every time she ran, just you could see the girl's eyes light up and was like, "Uh-oh, I don't want to stand in front of her at the moment. She's on fire." But yeah, it was entertaining. It was good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can clearly tell yesterday that they were the two best sides all year, and probably by a country mile as well. So fantastic to see. And the Broncos, unfortunately, get stronger next year with the impending arrival of Jessie Southwell next year to take over from Ali Brigginshaw, who has been a stalwart of that game since the inception of the NRLW. I know she has the internationals to come, but her NRLW career comes to an end, and what better way to not many get to do it that way, but she certainly did. Let's get stuck in the NRL side of things now. And I feel like I'll be doing a disservice if we didn't start with Reece Walsh and that performance that we did see from Reece Walsh last night. It was just, I know from a Melbourne Storm fan's point of view, something that you didn't want to see. But I know, Trav, you've been talking about Reece Walsh now for a while, especially in this final series, and he has just torn every team apart that he has been able to play against for probably the last 6 or so weeks now. So, look, we were all sort of, in a way, I felt like doubting him slightly in terms of he was about to verse the Melbourne Storm, and we just know how good Craig Bellamy is at stopping these sorts of players. He's done it multiple times in the past over the years with Hayne, Barber, Trbojevic during the finals as well. Like, he's been able to find these guys who are in form and just get his team to absolutely swamp him. But from literally the word go last night, all the way throughout the game to the final minute, in both attack and defense. We'll get to the controversial stuff shortly, but I just thought his all-round game, Trav, it was one of the best individual performances I've seen by a player in a grand final. And I know there's people out there, they'll mention Thurston, they'll mention Cleary's 20 minutes a few years ago, things like that. But my argument is this felt like it was a complete 80-minute performance. And I don't know. Like, I can't remember. I've been trying to think in the car and stuff all day. I've been in there for bloody 10 hours or something. I just can't find a more complete performance.
I wouldn't say it was perfect, but Reece Walsh was clear and above the best player on the field. No doubt about it. But it definitely wasn't perfect. There was a couple of missed tackles that he had. I think 2 that resulted in tries that he was involved in. That forward pass off the try that was called back. So it wasn't a complete near perfect performance, but it's pretty hard to go back and have a look at anyone that's actually done a complete near perfect 80 minutes in a grand final. So I'm just clutching at straws there for the naysayers to want to try and have a go at people like Walsh, or that want to have a go at Walsh here and say, well, yeah, so that's that. But yeah, he was by far and above the best player in the field. I said to my wife, when Reynolds went down, I like literally looked at her and she looked back at me and goes, "What are you looking at me for?" And I went, "Uh-oh." And I like literally just went, "Uh-oh." And she goes, "What?" And I said, "Well, why have the Broncos been so good the last third of the year?" And she said, "Because Reece Walsh, because you've been telling me how good Reece Walsh is." I said, "Yeah, but Reece Walsh has been the man because Reynolds and Mam have been away, and Reece Walsh has just been a freak. It's just unreal." And that's what he did. The first half, he was good. I actually compat that there was probably a couple others that were better than him in the first half, but what he did in the second half to continue that and overall and lead that to a 16-0 run in the second half was just immense. And yep, a Storm fan. Like it's gutting what he did and how he did it, but I sit there in awe and think, yeah, man, like toilet water boy, he destroyed us in the second half.
It was that try he scored as well. Like, I think what we all know Reece Walsh for is that flamboyancy stuff that he'll have the odd mistake. He did it, like you said last night, that forward pass that's in his game. We're just used to him. He'll throw 3 or 4 forward passes in a game and miss out on 1 or 2 tries because of it, but he'll just go again and do it. But to watch that, and I've seen the replay a couple of times today and things like that, where he's on the other side of the field trying to plan a move. He then sweeps around because he sees, I think, as a Storm player in and around the ruck a bit lazy, and he just goes straight out, give me the ball, and he runs it like it's Payne Haas in his prime, basically. And I think he ended up getting past 3 and then basically carried Pap to the line. So, like, that's just not a play that I'd with Reece Walsh's name, like that hard-fought carry sort of try, but he did it from about 20 out, and I was just so impressed by. And as soon as he scored that, I thought, and that was while everyone was on the field and that still, but I was just thinking in my head, he's on one tonight. Like him doing that, he's on one. And if I was in the Storm's fan section, things like that, and I was backing for the Storm, I'm extremely worried at the moment because that's not a Reece Walsh play normally. He doesn't normally do that sort of stuff. To have that mind frame for him to be like, run the football first, and I'm just going to back myself. I hate when Reece Walsh, from an opposition point of view, is backing himself. That's a very, very dangerous Reece Walsh.
Yeah, I mean, speed is power, isn't it? Right? Especially in this game, speed is absolute power. Like you just ask the likes of Josh Adokar and things, those small bodies, but just that pure speed is just pure blown power. Yeah, like it was so fun to watch. Like it was scary. It was annoying watching it as a fan, but like it was so good to watch. Like I've been one of his biggest positive speakers for the last third of this year, and actually said that they shouldn't have even brought Reynolds back, like and Mam back. Credit to Mam last night. He was really good on the field, but I said that they shouldn't have brought him back. The way that they were playing and what they were doing, they had a really good thing going, and they were very lucky to get past the Raiders, but got past the Raiders, and that was the turning point, right? They lose to the Raiders. It's a very different series, a final series for them, I feel. But that's talking and hypotheticals, and that didn't happen. So. But yeah, like then the Billy Walters injury and all that sort of made the dominoes fall into place, and that's just how it ended up having to happen. And now they've won a premiership. But yeah, like I think that the lines in the sand now, and the X's and O's are on the paper. Like this is what the Broncos have to do for moving forward. And here's your blueprint, right? Broncos can continue to win. Like they're still a young team, so they'll continue to win if they just continue to watch Reece Walsh do what he wants to do if he can stay healthy. So. Yeah, it was
there's a moment to talk about, but just before I do, I don't want to forget it. You've mentioned him just there. That touch from Adam Reynolds in the post game with Billy Walters. Just want to quickly touch on that and just say what a great moment, great sportsmanship moment, great club moment. Because I think we all know and just how good Walters has been for this club this year. He's obviously the backstory with his dad. That would have been really hard to get over. I think many players in the past would have basically went to the CEO the next day and said, I want out of this club, get me out of here. And he stuck solid, which would have been hard. There would have been a lot of talk early on about his dad and things like that he did wrong and that sort of thing. But he stayed strong. And he was one of the Broncos' best players all throughout the year, to the point where everyone was saying over the last 2 or 3 weeks when he was fit before the injury that at the present time, you'd be keeping Reynolds and Hunt out of this team because of just how good just how good Billy Walters is going. And you'd keep Mam out of the team as well because Walters is doing everything that he needs to do. And It's freeing up Reece Walsh so much. So that was a really good moment. I really love to see that. But Trav, I know there's a moment in the first half for Reece Walsh where there's been plenty to talk about with it. Social media has been absolutely on fire with this the last 24 hours. And plenty saying he shouldn't have been on the field. Plenty of saying 10 minutes minimum. Some were saying send off. What are your thoughts
On what?
the Reece Walsh moment? What are your thoughts?
The shoulder charge. Yeah, look, I'm going to say this now, and there's a whole heap of negative stuff that I'm going to talk about here, but I'm not going to talk that I don't legitimately think that the refereeing cost the Storm this game. I think the Storm were their own worst enemy on the back of one of the biggest performances we've ever seen. But far out, the reffing really, really was frustrating last night, like really frustrating. That shoulder charge that Reece Walsh did is not a send-off. I don't think that's a send-off. So I'm going to clear that. I have had people say that. I've spoken to two pretty prominent journalists over the last 24 hours, one ex-player that I know quite well, a whole heap of fans, a whole heap of other people that have messaged me, just friends and things like that know that I talk here, and everyone's of the belief that in any other series with any other person and any other game is a 10-minute in the bin. There's no doubt about it, and that is an absolute joke that he didn't get given 10 minutes in the bin. There is so many bits and pieces. There are so many inconsistencies with that call that's really frustrating. So that's happened throughout the year. A la Jack Whiten, Harry Grant, all sorts of things that are just not that have just the inconsistencies. The only consistent thing that's happened this year with the refereeing's been the inconsistency, and that's all we've asked for. And this is not what's happened. That is a clear shoulder charge forced through the face. You're going to talk around Coates going down. Well, why was Coates going down? Because he got tackled by Reynolds. That's why he was going down. Reece Walsh then comes in and just bolts him straight through the middle of his face with his shoulder. So that's a clear and utter 10 minutes in the bin. That's all it needs to be. That's as much as it is. Yeah.
Is that all you got? You got more than that.
I've got lots more to go, but you asked me a question about that. So that's my answer quickly to that.
So just with the Reece Walsh part of it, I think it's hard for him in that split. So like everyone's watched so many replays in that super slow-mo, and I think we need to start getting into a pattern where we watch a lot of things in normal time and don't get manipulated by slow-mo, because I think it can actually destroy a lot of opinions in the game. And unfortunately, we have to now officiate our tries with it, which there's a lot out there that don't like it still. They think that it shouldn't be like that, and technology's taken over the game too much. But Reynolds was 100%, tackling him, taking him to the ground. But we've seen that many times. Players come in after a one-on-one sort of tackle and tackle and make the tackle. So I'm not of the belief or of such belief that it was 10 in the bin. I have seen it slightly different. I don't think,
and you have been during the season, Joel. So here's the problem, right? So this is not me having a go at Joel. This is me having a go at the inconsistencies, because you called out Stephen Crichton when he belted Taylor May, right? Taylor May was going down. Stephen Crichton led with his shoulder and put a shoulder through his head, and you called him out, said he should have been binned and should have been suspended, and he didn't, right? But now you're okay with what Reece Walsh did in a different situation where the tackler was going down. Now Taylor May slipped because it was pissing down rain. It was torrential rain. Taylor May slipped. Xavier Coates went down because he got tackled. Xavier Coates didn't fall down because he slipped. He got tackled down, and Reece Walsh come through. If you're okay, if you're going to call out the fact that Stephen Crichton should have got binned and et cetera, for that, then that has to be the same situation, right? And there's been multiple situations throughout this where they have been binned. They have well, not sent off, but have had proper suspensions and have had all of these sorts of things, and it's been done. And then this time it doesn't. And that's the thing, right? This is not me as a Storm fan going, oh my God, I'm, blah, 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 blah. This is me going, the inconsistencies are ridiculous. Here's a moment that should have been called, but it wasn't because of the factors of what it is. But yeah.
I'll go. I see what you're saying, and I see the frustrations in terms of the differing refereeing for finals and origins and I'll firstly say we've been on that agenda for 2 years now. We've been saying that has been ridiculous for a long time now. And I actually heard it on the Triple M one today. I think Wade Graham actually mentioned it. He said the precedent of last night, he'd be completely fine if that is the precedent and how the game is refereed moving forward. Now that's how we do it. There was I don't even know how to say the bloody word, but there was a situation, there was circumstances around the Coates one that he could live with, and I'm agreeing sort of with his take on it to suggest why it happened and in split time, where for the Liero one, let's say, it was a bit of a different scenario in my eyes. And he sort of said it today on his podcast, was the fact that if that's the way you're going to officiate the grand final, that's fine, but officiate the other 27 weeks plus finals that way.
And
that's the way to...
That's 100%. Sorry, Joel, but that's the first thing I've written in my notes. As you know, I write notes. And the first thing I've said is we shouldn't be reffing games differently at the last week in the grand final. Like the way we ref round one is exactly the way that we should ref the grand final all the way through the entire year. And it hasn't. And it's chopped and fucking changed 4 or 5 times over and over and over again over the year. And now it gets to some very key moments and very key situations where these calls have either been made or not made. And we're sitting here talking about it now as absolute garbage that overrules a game that's one of the greatest games that we've seen, and it pisses me off that this is what we're having as a talking point, right? It's incredibly frustrating. Now, I'm not comparing Walsh to Liero. I'm not comparing that. What I'm comparing with that situation is that if you're not going to send Walsh, you don't send Liero. It's as simple as that. Like you've set that precedent by a shoulder charge and going through. You can't do it. However, I'm okay.
I think it was different.
I'm okay. Well, like I'm okay with the Liero one. At least I feel Liero actually tried to wrap, right? So, and Liero actually tried to get his arms around, whereas Reece Walsh just literally just went in with the shoulder. There's a different.
Walsh had wrapping movement.
No,
Walsh had a
No, he
100%
literally
he
just he didn't. I watched it just before he came in. All he did was try to go through with his shoulder. It's as simple as that. Like he didn't. Liero actually tried to, but he still got him shoulder through the head high contact. And I'm okay because consistently that actually has been called through the year as 10 in the bin. I'm fine with that. Let it go. My issue is that there are a number of issues that have happened throughout that game that didn't get called, and then they want to call that one at the end. That's the issue. That's the inconsistent issue that I've got.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of level up. I feel like both teams did get away with one early on in the game. I think obviously the Walsh one we've been speaking about. If I wanted to side with your side of it and other people out there and say that he should have been in the bin, then that was one. There's many out there, and I've said it as well, that the Hughes one, if you're going to say the Walsh one, there's very valid reasons why Hughes could have been a sin bin as well at the time, but both sides escaped it, and I was more than happy with that. I do think the Aero one was the worst one out of all of them. I think he actually left the ground. One of his feet were off the ground, which the match review committee look at and judge quite severely, and they change. They make that and mark that as actually intent to cause some kind of damage, which makes sense because he did it after they wanted the ball back. He was trying to make a big play for his team, so you can't really put him out to the fire for it. Like if it came off, if he was 5 centimeters lower on the hit, he probably dislodges the ball because it was a big hit.
Yep,
so he was trying the best for his team, and unfortunately, he does have some prize with it. He has a bit of a history with that sort of thing, which has cost him a little bit when it comes to the grading and it comes to the suspension. So it's 3 weeks for him. Now the Reece Walsh one, what I'll mention as well is
it was 3 weeks with it. 3 weeks if you can.
3 weeks if you contest. Now the Walsh one was actually a 2-week suspension if he decides to contest it. A $3,000 fine if he doesn't. Now, what I will say to this, to just talk to some people out there and agree to a certain extent on something, I reckon moving forward, and it's very hard to police this one because the match review comes out afterwards, but I feel like there should be the bunker or whatever should have some kind of mind frame of if they're thinking a suspension is about to come for 2+ weeks for a player, I think that's enough to warrant a sin bin. And I think that's what we sort of need to get to, because that means, in my eyes anyway, that two teams in the lead up now in the post for this now. So whoever versus the Storm week 1 and 2 next year will benefit from this, where the Broncos did get a benefit because they lost Leo. But if there's people out there, and the match review obviously seen something with the Walsh one to say to him, hey, if you challenge this, you get in 2 weeks, which is that's a pretty decent whack for some people out there, what they've got. Then in my eyes, and what I'm trying to say is that there should be something there that the Storm get some kind of advantage during the game. So if it's bad enough to warrant the game saying, nah, that's potentially a 2-week suspension, there just needs to find some sort of balance ground that the team that cops the hit gets something in return for the foul play that was at hand. I think that's something that the game really needs to start working on a lot better.
Yeah, but your traditionalists and your purists, I don't like saying that, but your traditionalists and your older heads are going to say, yeah, the penalty's sufficient, right? Let there be. Like, if it's sufficient enough to be a 2-week penalty, then there should be a sin bin. And then I think to take that even further, which is I agree with what you're saying. If you are sin binned, then I think the 2-week penalty gets dropped or halved. So you've got your 10 minutes penalty. So that's a big, because 1 man down for 10 minutes is a big punishment. So instead of 2 weeks, it becomes 1 week. Instead of 3 weeks, it becomes 2 weeks, kind of thing. Like, does that make sense? I think that's the way that should play out.
Yeah. There's probably a lot more to talk about when it comes to this side of it. But like you sort of said, it is a bit of a pain to be discussing this at length and to go so deep and long into it when it was a pretty remarkable grand final. When you actually look at it, like me, I was a neutral watching this game, and I actually have it right up there with grand finals that I've watched and that I can remember. I actually thought it was a lot of end-to-end stuff, a lot of high-attacking football. Yes, there was some controversy as well, which naturally just comes with good games. It seems to any good game you can remember has some kind of moment or two where you're like, oh, hang on, what sort of happened there, or why didn't that happen, things like that. So there was so much happening. It was end-to-end. It was right up to the final whistle where the Storm were throwing the ball around and had a chance to win. And then we've obviously spoken about, we had someone like Reece Walsh just come of age and step up in the grander stage of them all. I want to go to the Storm side of it first, Trav. I think that's fair to start there and just sort of, for your point of view, talk to you about what you made of the game in terms of the Storm side of it and where you thought your spine was at, especially in the second half. What you sort of watched and if you were getting frustrated, because I wasn't even a fan, but I just felt like there were some moments there that weren't really grabbed when they probably would have been by the Storm of old.
Right. I think the Howarth injury right at the start of the game really tossed us out. That really messed us up. The Wishart having to go to the centres kind of stuffed that whole thing up for us, and it didn't. That whole
very
edge,
clunky.
It became, which is funny to say about a centre, but that's how important Howarth is to this team. So I will say that, but then also that stops our X factor and Wishart coming in, and we can take off one of our bigs, and then we've got Wishart roaming through the middles and doing what he does, and that stopped that because he had to lock in that centre spot. So that kind of played out a really big key in the second half. Actually, the first half, I thought our spine was fantastic. I thought Harry Grant was picking his moments through runs. I thought he could have run a little bit more off the play of the balls, but he picked his moments quite well. Could have been more selfish, was probably what I wanted to say better. I thought Pappenhausen played really well. I actually thought Pappenhausen played pretty well for the whole game. I'm going to give him a definite pass mark, if way more than a pass. I thought in the first half, Munster and Hughes were fantastic. In the second half was one of the worst second halves I've seen, an important second half I've seen from the Storm in my time of watching the Storm. It was just offensively, we were just all over the shop. It was not a Melbourne team that I went. And I said in the preview last week, and I said to lots of people that have messaged me, I said, and a family member, the brother-in-law messaged me just before the game and said, how did the Storm win this game? And I said, we're going to have to play at least 3/4 of this game. 75% of this game, we have to be the best out there. We can't play 50. We can't play 20 and expect to win. We need to play at least 75%, and we're probably even going to have to play the full 80 And I said that in the preview too. We're going to have to play a big game, and we didn't. We played 40 minutes, and unfortunately, that's what happened. And and that's where it went. Offensively, we were just shell shocked. We just had nothing. We were flat footed on defense. When we finally got the ball in that last sort of 15 minutes, there was just no structure through it. Like it was a bit hero ball, and that's not like it. And then also, as much as I love Munster, I love him. I don't want him to go. I'm a big fan of his, but the problem was it became his ball instead of Hughes. And I think Hughes needed to be the one player making those plays and controlling the team, and let Munster go and create chaos and chaoticness through Hughes' play. And it just, and it limited and it stopped. This was also a game that, when you're asking about the spine, this was also a game where our pack had to dominate to help our spine. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. And I said to the preview, Stefano, if you're going to pull out words and say what you have to do, you've got to back it up with a game. And he didn't back it up this weekend, yesterday, and that stopped. I thought Josh King was serviceable. He did what he had to do. He was a tackling machine. But yeah, we just didn't get the run through our bigs. Like Tui, like, geez, I've never seen a dude run faster and harder but get nowhere with it than Tua Kamakamika. And I'm a big fan of his, but this is a big man who runs so hard in the line, and he runs so fast, but he never gets anywhere. Like he hits the line, he gets tackled, he gets pulled up, he plays the ball, and that's as far as it goes.
That no try was massive.
Key
Point.
moment. If he gets that down, I think we're talking completely different. We're literally centimeters away from having that as a try. So, and that
you
was
win the
really
game by 30. If he scores that, you win the game by 30.
Momentum killer for that, eh? Like that sort of try came out of nowhere. It was a really good play by Harry Grant, and the like. And yeah, centimeters away from the big fella putting that down. But the point is that our pack just didn't provide what our spine needed, and then that's what Hughes and Munster sort of had to, and Pappenhausen running through the lines had to kind of be magical and create. And then when it got to that last 15 minutes, you could see in the back of their heads, they knew that their pack wasn't getting anywhere with them. So they're the ones that had to go and play. And just some bad moments. Like that Wishart pass out to Coates on the sideline was just dumb. Like it was just, what are you doing? You're 2 meters away. You're about to get tackled. You've got a guy in front of you. You throw the ball to Coates. What's the Coates' first thing he's going to do is try and go down so he doesn't go out of bounds. Like it was just some really, really poor offensive creation and flat-footed defense. But full credit, the flat-footed defense came because Walsh just turned it on.
Do you think last night has sort of summed a bit up of your season? And what I mean by that is it's been a very inconsistent year for the Melbourne Storm. And I think we've said it a couple of times on here throughout the season, where it just feels like it's been one of these years where we're waiting for the Storm to just be that A-plus outfit. And it just seemed to very slowly look like it was coming. Then there'd be like a game where, like a milestone game where we're like, oh, here we go. This is the Storm. Well, they'll win this game 50-0. And then they lose. Like they've lost a couple of big milestone games this year, which aren't the Storm like. So I know the spine has been in and out a little bit this year with different injuries and hasn't helped. But it just feels like when you sort of look back and you peel back some of the layers there, that it may have just been, unfortunately, them showing what this year was for the Storm. And it was, looking back, and it sounds really weird to say because they've finished second, but it was a really weird, inconsistent year for the Storm. And that second half, like you said, the first half, sensational. Harry Grant was man of the match if you stop the game after after the first half, potentially Katoa, which we'll talk about in a second. But they were both absolutely unreal. And you're just thinking, well, here we go. Their big players have stepped up. Hughes ran the line perfectly, and his arms just, whoever's done something to his arms, just a miracle worker. But then the second half came, and I know the Broncos got a bit more of the ball possession. Walsh decided to fire. The players went down, which made Walsh just went to another level again. But it just did feel very inconsistent, like I felt like we've spoken about so many times with the season.
Yeah, we said it all year, right? And I felt we were building up to this grand final. Like we just had to get through. We just had to get moments. We didn't have a bye for a very long time. We had the injuries that we had to deal with. Everything sort of played against us, yet we still statistically led the comp or was top 2 or 3 in pretty much most of the important statistics on both sides of the ball. We were second by percentage, basically, and Raiders were a game ahead, I think, wasn't it? But we had one of the best point I think we had the best point differential in the competition. Like, yet we constantly copped a negative around how inconsistent we were. Yet we were still thereabouts, right? So it's the expectation that the competition and the people have on the Storm. And so when it's not that A+ grade that everyone talks around, or that everyone expects the Storm to have, we talk around that as being inconsistent. We turned up in the first half, and that was exactly like I went in the half time. I thought I said to myself, I said that was exactly what we'd been building up for. Like, this was great. Like, I think the ref gifted the Broncos their first try. He decided to call a couple of penalties and things and wanted to try and lay down the law with the ruck. Funny enough, that disappeared after that. And then for the rest of the game, it was allowed for both sides of the ball. So it was weird that got called early. But, they got gifted that. But then we answer straight back with a really good line from Nick Meaney off a good play. And Nick Meaney hits that. We get that try. Then Katoa's try, and like 4 or 5 minutes later. Then Warbrick's beast mode try out in the wing. And then the Jerome Hughes try. We had 4 tries in the first half off the back of really good play. And I thought this was exactly what we'd been building up for. And then literally just we dipped. And I don't think there's no excuse for us to do that. We should have been rested with the week off. The Sharks game the week before was a prelim, but it wasn't like a brutal game, right? It wasn't, we had 9-day break, so we had plenty of rest. Like, there was just no excuse to drop off like that. But full credit has to go to the team on the other side to do that.
Can I tell you what I reckon that was the second half? And I think you somewhat alluded to it when you first spoke about it. Was first half, Harry Grant, in a way, was selfish with what he was doing, but it was working. Like, I think he noticed the ruck and that there was a lot of space happening. The Broncos middles weren't quite there, and he was exploiting that perfectly. Yes, I know, and we'll talk about Brisbane soon, but Payne Haas's second stint was massive. But at the same time, it felt like there started to be second half when it came to some of the Storm's playmakers, and especially Munster in particular, who I thought wasn't fantastic last night. I think he was one of his worst games for the year. And I do feel bad saying that because I know how big of a year he has had personally, but it just felt like there was a lot of time where when the Storm, especially their big 4, felt like Walsh was coming and the Broncos were coming, they sort of started to panic a little bit, where the Storm just don't do that. The Storm are known and renowned for not panicking. Like, they'll just keep going. And we've said it so many times over the last 2 years, where anytime the big 4 play together, they'll notice very early on who is on for the game, and everything goes from then. So for me, watching that last night, Harry Grant was on. He was the guy doing most things. And like you said, Pappy was great with his support players, things like that. So that was your blueprint. Like, that's where normally Hughes and Munster will both say, all right, Harry, you're doing it. Let's go off, Harry. Let's go from there. And we'll go on times and just strike when we can. And it just felt like that second half, that real panic sort of did set in a little bit. What also didn't help was there was a lot of pressure there when it came to the Melbourne Storm. And it unfortunately, I'm just going to call it out and say it before we move on. Will Warbrick probably has saved his worst game in a Melbourne Storm jersey for the biggest game of his career. And obviously we can talk last year. This was the year that Melbourne was supposed to strike back after last year's loss. And they weren't, when the going got tough, it sort of, the pressure just seemed to have doubled every time Will Warbrick made one of those mistakes. And I did feel for him. Like, he's a very good player. He has had he's been out a lot this year, which may have had a bit to play with a few little things, but when you're in that level and you're dropping some of those balls that he did drop, it was pretty much inexcusable, Trav.
Yeah, so I said that to you in the group during the game, and was a bit more brutal. But yeah, like when he had the ball in his hands, other than just those 3 fumbles, ball in hand, when he did the right thing, he was good. 189 meters, a try. Should have had a second try. That key drop that Pappenhausen broke the lines, Warbrick ran as the support play. Warbrick would have seen straight away, would have seen the whole time that Pappy was going to have to pass this because Pappy was running to the corner. Warbrick was on his left side, knowing that Pappy was running out, so he was going to get it, and he fumbled it. Like, what is that? Like, he literally just went, all right, I got to try here, and made the try before he even got the ball, and just fumbles that. That was just momentum killer. He gets that through. It's a whole different story. They go up the other end and get their try. There was the other one in the middle of the field where Meaney passes the ball, but it's not a great pass. And the ball literally, and Warbrick just stops, and the ball just bounces straight through Warbrick's feet. Warbrick turns around and like jogs to get it. The ball goes out of bounds. I'm like, what are you doing, man? It's a grand final. Have some urgency. Like that was a key one, that second one. And then the first half, another drop that he should have probably, the momentum there would have been another try, obviously hypothetically, but just the way that we were running that set, and he drops it was bad. And then some of those defensive reads that he had was just like really poor. The Shibasaki try, that Meaney Warbrick defensive effort off that. Although I'm adamant, and I've looked at those replays, that Walsh makes that pass go forward. That's a forward pass to Shiba that didn't get called, but it didn't get called. And I've said all year that they don't often call forward passes on tries, but that was a forward pass. But the defense from Meaney and Warbrick straight out from halftime off that is just like, that's how you return from halftime, and that's the urgency you allow a try just like that to walk through. Yeah, Warbrick was, like, statistically he was pretty good, but there was some really bad moments.
I'll save you, mate. Let's go and talk about the Broncos. I know it's been a tough one for you, so I'll move it on over to the other side. Just before we do, we'll talk a bit more about the Storm in the season review and things like that. But I actually mean this sincerely. I'm very appreciative of you sharing your thoughts, because it's not easy, and I think a lot of people out there need to start understanding a little bit more. Obviously, we are fans for our teams and things like that. You would have been so up last night and in the build-up, and a massive day. Probably had the flags and everything out, the jerseys, everything. So to come back on 24 hours after, I know going back to 2009 and things like that, when the Eels lost and I was sitting there, and the other year against Penrith, it took me, especially the one against Penrith the other year, I probably wouldn't have been able to talk on a podcast for about a week or so. It took me a while to really actually get over it. It hurts. It hurts a lot. So I do appreciate it. I know in the chats that have been giving you guys a little bit of shit. I just genuinely mean that more so from there is a rivalry there naturally with the clubs and what the past and things like that. If it's any credit to you, Broncos aren't that far away in my power rankings as well in terms of clubs that I don't really like. So for me, it wasn't a fantastic grand final for teams wise, but for rugby league, they put on a bit of a show. I was really thankful for, but like I said, I do appreciate and definitely respect everything that you've come on and said about your team. It's not easy. I can see you're still hurting. I can tell you're hurting, but I do appreciate you talking about the Storm.
Oh, I'm glad you finally admitted that you don't like the Storm. You've been talking for 18 months saying, no, you love every club. You love everything. Now you finally come out and did it. So
no, it's not that I don't love every club. I'll always talk about them naturally and where I can, but I think naturally, like at some point, and last night, it's the last game of the year. I've copped it a lot about Parramatta all year from certain people in certain chats out there, and they know exactly who they are. You were caught in the crosshairs of that because you haven't actually given me too much, so I'll give you that. But a few of the others have. So waited for my moment to strike, and I did a little bit. So
yeah, you picked a bad moment though. Like you're going to strike and do that, but you've got nothing to back yourself off. So yeah, the longest winning streak. Yeah. No, look, I appreciate it. Like my job is sorry. I appreciate it. Like I love the Storm, but I pride myself on loving the Storm, but being as unbiased as I can, and I really pride myself on that. And I will talk where it needs to be, and I will give the Storm as much shit, which I think I just did as they deserve when they deserve it. So, but I will also talk positively about them too when they deserve that. And there's a lot of other things that I think the Storm need to be spoken about negatively that I want to talk about, that I've got my list to talk about, and I'm ready to talk in the review. But like reviewing last night's game, that's probably all I've got really.
Yeah, look, well done. So Let's talk about the Brisbane Broncos. I want to firstly, it's the big narrative to come out of this is Michael Maguire, Madge, as he's basically known to everyone now. Everyone's oversaid his full name, so Madge it is. What a sensational firstly last 18 months basically for him. So he obviously had the New Zealand job, won the Pacific Champs with them just under 2 years ago now. Origin last year beat the Maroons, which we can now see that
In a decider.
no easy feat. Yeah, no easy feat to the decider or all that. Now he's come and basically won the competition with the Broncos inside the first season of being coached there. Now, there's been a lot of criticism towards Madge all year, predominantly from, and we all watch the shows, people like Buzz and Gordy and things like that have been just pounding the bloke relentlessly. And it's at times really been unfair because, like so many have said, like you look at the Storm, we just spoke about him, they are literally notorious for absolutely gutting their plays in the preseason. They just get him to the point where they almost need to go to hospital. And we've heard stories about ex-players now that have gone, it's relentless. Like these preseasons under Bellamy, like what do you think teams are going to have to do to reach that level? Do exactly the same thing. And that's what Michael Maguire has done with this Broncos team in the offseason. I just can't believe how much buzz has gone in on him throughout the whole time. And Gordy trying to stick up. I understand for his mate in Kevy who got sacked, but let's all just call a spade for a second and just be like, Kevy didn't get the Broncos playing or anything like they did this year. I know 2 years ago they got to the grand final. They did get beat with just 20 minutes of sheer brilliance from the greatest player to do it at the moment in Nathan Cleary. But at the same time, like last year, he should have been able to back that up. He failed miserably. Like his team just wasn't there and playing anywhere like they are at the moment. And to have a guy that's come straight in, they needed a hard ass coach. They needed a guy to come and kick this place and shake it upside down, which Madge has done perfectly. Look, no doubt in the preseason, he probably would have shaken a few of those players up because they're not used to it. But like Reece Walsh said last night in the press conference, he goes, look at what we've just achieved. Everything was worth it. Like nothing you can say is true about what has happened because look what we needed to do to get to what we wanted, which is the premiership, and we've got it. It's happened inside a year. Like I think when we've all spoken about the Broncos, especially in the lead up to this season, we all said this will be an interesting 12 months. If it works for 12 months, then next year will be the big year for the Broncos. It's happened quicker than I reckon anyone out there thought, Trav. Like it's actually been remarkable to watch Madge go about it. I know most people don't talk about him and it's his first one, but his first one with the Broncos, but it's been a tremendous period for him.
It has been. No, I look in the preseason. If you go back, I actually said on paper, Brisbane Broncos have the best list in the competition. I said the problem is that it's a new coach. It's the off the field issues. It's the show pony type stuff that happens that I think is the only thing that's affected the Broncos and to why I put them. I think I had them fifth, but with the preface that or with on the proviso that beware of the Broncos. I said to a good friend of mine during the week because she asked me how. If what's your prognosis for this weekend? And I said, if the Broncos turn up to play the way that their list is built and what the talent they've got, no one in the competition is as good as the Brisbane Broncos. No one, absolutely nobody. If they are on, no one can compete with them. The problem with the Broncos is that they haven't been able to do it for long periods of time or long enough. But, could you imagine what they would have been doing to these teams if they had played longer than 20, 30 minutes? Like, holy Jesus. Like, if they're going to come back and make these comebacks that they've made and win these games, like, what they could have done playing 60, 50 even, 60 minutes, like, they'd be blowing teams out of the park. Like, it's incredible, right? And it's off the back of this hard yak of that they said. And you and I, Joel, let's pat ourselves off the back. Is one of the things on the back is one of the things we said that this Broncos team needed was a kick in the ass. They really needed to be kicked in the ass. They needed a Madge, right? They needed to be pure blown kicked in the ass because we know full well their list is fantastic across the park. There are deficiencies, but that's in every list. There's going to be, you're only as weak as your worst player. And but they're still you're only as good as your worst player, and their worst player is still pretty bloody good. There are still deficiencies, but off the park, they're great. But they needed someone to kick their ass and pull them into line. And they went into the preseason with the Ezra Mam stuff, and we thought that was going to be a bit of a deterrent, and I think it was. It certainly was a deterrent. Like the way that they started the year, it definitely showed that it was an issue and it caused problems, right? The way that they were able to in the second half of the year turn it around and do what they've done to then win a premiership is one of the best second halves of the year I've ever seen. Like it's just immense, and what they've been able to do, like. Yeah, so I mean, I really liked the Newcastle Knights and what they did a few years ago to win all those games in a row at the end to get into the finals, but they did win a grand final. The Broncos win a grand final, and then to do it off the back of losing their two halves in one game in the matter of 30 meters, and then to come back and do that and then get themselves into the top four from there. Yeah, it's an incredible effort, and it's off the back of one dude, and it's yet the talent on the park was already there. It needed to be harnessed, and Madge has been able to harness it in that second half.
The final storyline to me for the Brisbane Broncos is actually quite amazing when you look at it on paper. So the first week they beat the minor premiers in Canberra, on a Sunday afternoon, packed house. Probably ideal conditions for the Broncos. Looking back at it, the Raiders are probably kicking themselves with that. They probably should have chosen that Saturday night. It would have been a lot better for them. But it took a Reece Walsh sin binning to come back and put on an absolute masterclass last 15 or so minutes and just tear the Raiders apart. But that was the minor premiers of this year. They get the week off. And then last week, I was lucky enough to be at that game and witness an incredible atmosphere, one of the best I've ever been to. But they beat the four-time premiers who are gunning for a fifth straight and seem to be getting better as the weeks were going. So that was a remarkable victory in itself. And now, after you've just taken on two of the probably heavyweights of this year's competition, you then to go against arguably were the favourites for the majority of the year, the Melbourne Storm. It's actually an incredible run, this final series. And they've had to put up with some big teams, some big teams. But it's just, you can basically, like, they've definitely earned this premiership with what they've had to deal with. There's no easy way through to this final series this year. They definitely didn't do that. They didn't get their maths right when they sorted their finishing position out. That was for sure. But the best thing was and this is going back to round 27, and you'll know it as well. They versed that Melbourne Storm side, and they needed to win that to make the top four. So that sort of, their final started a week early in a way because it was must win for them. They really wanted to finish top four. They put an emphasis on it. And they got that done. So it was an incredible month of football, really, in the lead up to last night. And as you said, Trav, we put the post up during the week, 13 minutes and 55 seconds before last night, that they've only led in this final series out of 175 minutes, I think it was. Like, just something stupid. And it just shows you how fit they are as well. They're an extremely fit footy club at the moment. They've got extremely fit players across the park. And with all the players that went down last night in the key positions, without that fitness to back it up, Trav, there's no way they win that.
No. Yeah, absolutely. The short answer and the simple answer that is no, they don't. And like, let's be frank. Like, Reynolds went out very early, and then Hunt, like, literally, gets the everything taken out of him. He was just watching him run off was in fairyland. It was incredible, and to do what they did, it's amazing. I've got to give some other credit to Madge around what he's done. So like, as much as I think the Ezra Mam thing at the start of the year and that is a disgrace, and the fact that he even played and what happened and all the storyline behind that, to be able to get Ezra Mam to play the way that he did in that grand final and what he has done over the year is just fantastic. And I don't think Ezra Mam should have been playing that game. He shouldn't have. He shouldn't have been allowed to play at all in 2025. But I credit where it's due. Madge getting him to play like that is fantastic. But if you think, let's look right back to round one. The balls on Madge to make some big changes, how he played Gazevsky early. Shibasaki throws into the centers, and at one point in time, and obviously Shibasaki gets himself into Origin, plays fantastic. At one point in time, I actually had him as behind Herbie as the best center, the top two centers in the comp, with the way he had a monster game last night. Shibasaki playing Pakes at the hooker early. Hetherington coming through. Like some of these guys, like Jesse Arthur's had a massive first half of the year. So full credit to Madge with some of those big calls that he had to make. Yeah, well,
Massive
that's right.
call.
And you got Cobbo in the wings, who he would literally play on literally every list in the competition, and he wasn't. He got dropped at one point, and then he got thrown around and didn't get picked, and then they put him in and get himself injured. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to come back, and all of that sort of stuff. But just the big calls that he was able to do there was some big ballsy plays, and there was some big ballsy moments, and he did that. I want to also give credit to him around how he was able to manage Stags. I think Stags had a fantastic year this year. Like Stags has really taken his game to a whole nother level. We all knew, and we said in the preview at the start of the year, Stags has moments where offensively he has like brilliance, and then he just completely disappears. And we know that Stags defensively is fantastic. But when he's offensively, he turns it on. He's very hard to beat. But throughout this entire year, Stags has had way more moments of being thereabouts or being offensively a threat all game for a lot of this year. And he's turned himself into a Premier Australia centre. And yeah, I just want to give him some serious raps for what he was able to do. So yeah, that's a big overall answer to what Madge has done. But yeah, he's a freak, and he's done a really good job with that list.
Yeah, a couple of the individual performances I do want to give some shout outs to and some credit and have a quick little discussion over a few of them. But you did mention, first of all, the Ezra Mam stuff. We all know by now what we think. We know what majority of the rugby league world think. 99% of basically all of us that agree wholeheartedly that he probably shouldn't have laced a boot on this year. He did do that over the last 24 hours as well. The news that's come out about him and the club and how they've dealt with things post the accident, I think is actually disgusting as well. And I think not just on Ezra, but the club to basically not be in contact is absolutely piss poor, and really frustrates me that they're a professional club. And when it first, and it just sort of summed up to me, and I'm trying not to go back there and lighten it all up, but the way the Broncos handled it to start with, and their release about basically on Christmas time when everyone was gone and media was all on holidays and they weren't going to get scrutinized for it. They waited until that moment to do the punishment. And they've just been real gutless when it comes to this whole Ezra Mam scenario, which just is absolutely disgusting, I feel like. And to not be talking to the victims and sorting things out and helping them out. Like, they're still injured and dealing with some things day to day. And I just think it's extremely piss poor. But in saying that, and I couldn't believe, I said it to the missus a few times last night, and she kind of got to a point at one point, because she can't stand him either, but she even agreed. She goes, he's sensational tonight. Like, he's come on and just been unreal. And it wasn't just his attack. Like, he was all of a sudden playing like he was in Payne Haas's body in defense. He was putting some shots on, and he was really muscling up, which isn't Ezra Mam. Like, that's not the guy that we remember playing and being this attacking masterclass sort of guy, but he was just everywhere, and he had a little bit of dog in him last night. There was a few times where he went at a few guys on the ground, and I still don't really like that, obviously, because of his past and what he's done. But there's no denying, Trevor, when we actually talk about his performance, and you did say it before as well, but he was bloody good. He was bloody good.
Yeah, he was. I don't like those. I think it was very dog act with a couple of things. The rubbing on the head, Warbrick, the standing over the top, and that pissed me off, because at moments in time there's been penalties called for that, and why didn't it get called last night? Because it's a grand final. I think it's ridiculous. And to be fair, it's also because of who was doing it. It was Ezra Mam. Like, shut up and just play, man. Like, you don't need to act like
Read
that.
the room.
But yeah, 100%, right? 100%. You're lucky to be playing. You're playing. Go and continue to dominate, because you were dominating. Like, he shut Warbrick down twice, a couple of big shots. Offensively, he was great. The lines he was running, some of those balls he played. But there was a couple other moments where there was a couple other moments where he was thereabouts. It was just a couple of little bad passes or one slight extra run or meter run that didn't need to be taken, and he was there, like he would have had a try or two. Like it was just, yeah, he was fantastic, and that's what I said to you before. Like kudos to Madge to be able to get Mam up and about and do that. Full credit to kudos where it's due. Yeah,
I think one other one I want to mention Ben Hunt. I don't think, look, first of all, I don't actually think he was fantastic last night. He had a few moments in him and things like that, but he covered 3 very key positions throughout the night, which I think went unnoticed by a few out there. He started at 5'8", obviously. Then he went into hooker once they did bring Mam on, which looking at it, I actually thought they did that 10 minutes too late. I would have got Mam on a little bit earlier than they did, but they've won the comp. It doesn't really matter now. And then obviously Reynolds went down, which meant Hunt went back into the halfback position. So 3 of the most key positions on the field, apart from fullback, he basically played all night. And that's an incredible effort. And obviously it's 10 years almost to the day it was yesterday to the famous drop the ball incident back in those Broncos colours for him. So a nice moment for him to finally get that premiership. It was funny. Now I got reminded, I think it was on 360 tonight when they said that technically if you're going off contracts, he's still a Dragons player. So it's crazy to think just how much our game can change in futures and things like that. He kicked up stones and basically said to the Dragons, I can't be here anymore. I've got to go. And look what's happened now. He's won the premiership. The other one I want to mention, the edge back roles I thought were incredible last night. I haven't rated them pretty much all year. I haven't rated either of them really. I think Ricky's been one of those prospects where there's been a lot of talk about him, but never really shown a lot. And then P. Cura's unfortunately had a lot of head knocks throughout his career so far. Hasn't been able to establish himself as what he was originally touted coming through the grades at the Broncos. But what we saw last night were 2 players up against probably 2 that we did those little spine things and picks and chooses throughout the last few days heading into the grand final. But I think majority picked the Storm back rowers almost every single time, which is fair enough. 100% you basically pick them. But I think both, Trav, and they weren't doing the spectacular things like Katoa did last night. I just think both of them had those games where you're like, you really held your own. You actually really stood up when you needed to the most and key reasons why the Broncos got it done in and amongst the superstar that we've all been speaking about.
Yeah, I like Ricky's game. I thought he was good. 31 tackles too for an edge back warrior is really good. Just goes to show what edge he was on and where the Storm were attacking. I thought Ricky was good. I thought Piakura had a couple of good defensive moments that he held up strong. A couple of good attacking runs and things with that. But yeah, like I wouldn't give Piakura as big a rap as what you are here. But yeah, fair call if that's what you saw. I actually, I'd prefer to give both of their wingers and centers a much bigger rap than Ricky and Piakura, because I thought Mariner was fantastic with his 217 meters. I thought Shibasaki was, behind Walsh, the best player on the field. I thought Staggs was fantastic. And actually there was moments of Karapani where statistically Karapani wasn't like great as what we're talking about here, but he had some really big defensive moments and had a couple of really good key runs. So yeah, I thought that was good. I thought they were very good, and I'd give them a bigger prop. But yeah, Ricky definitely.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree with the back 5. Basically, they were all sensational. Carrigan was just Carrigan. We thought all in the lead up after having that week off, he'd come back. He did the 80-minute stint. He just was unreal, and I don't think we expected anything less from Paddy Carrigan. And then I did mention a bit earlier, just a quick one, and he's just been an animal all year, and I'm just continually in awe of what he's doing on a personal life front, that he can do what he does on the football field. But Payne Haas's second stint, those first couple of runs he did to really get Broncos back on the front foot, I really noticed and thought were huge. He came on and straight away said, give me the ball, basically. Let me lay a platform once again. Walsh, you go off the back of me, please do it. And they did that, and I just thought his first stint wasn't quite where I thought it would have been, but boy, his second stint, once again, he's been notorious for it, I feel like, for a while now. But his second stint, Trav, was just something that I know Stefano was very mouthy in the lead up and things like that. But It was like, and I don't think Stefano's comments were ever aimed at Payne Haas. I think it was aimed at other players, but we all knew as soon as they came out, and I think Bellamy sort of said it at some point as well in the build up, but don't even attempt to poke Payne Haas any harder than we need to, because he doesn't need it at the best of times, let alone playing a grand final after hearing that sort of message.
Yeah, look, offensively, Stefano was a ghost, but defensively, I think in that first stint, I think Stefano held his own against Payne Haas really well. I thought defensively in that first stint, we held and defended Haas really, really well. We just didn't get any attacking go out of him. But that second stint from Haas, it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't like, Payne Haas like, but it was just moments of just that brick wall monster that just attacked the line, look for an offload, drag 2 or 3, 4 players in, freed up Walsh, freed up everybody, freed up some of their runners to allow them to do what the way that they wanted to play that second half. And yeah, he was huge. Probably one of the first people I'd pick if I was making my own franchise.
Yeah. There is plenty more we can say on the Broncos. We will probably save a lot of it for our season review on them, which really looking forward to discussing. Anything else you got to touch on in your pages of notes, no doubt, that you'd like to bring up before we sign off?
No. I mean, you posted a question, right? Is this one of the best performances or one of the greatest grand finals? What's your take? What's as the greatest grand final? Give me a game.
I don't think it's the greatest. I think it's right up there, though. I'm struggling to find it. I'm struggling to find a way to put it outside the top probably 3 or 4. I think it's right up there. And like I said from the start, it was one of those really exciting end-to-end grand finals. There was something always happening. We had a mix of a tremendous player like Reece Walsh doing what he did on the grandest stage of all after having one of the more remarkable sort of 6 to 8 week periods that we've seen of an individual player, which normally we see that this happen, but once it gets to the grand final, they just get nullified and they just stop, where Walsh went to like another level. Like, it was actually insane what he did. And I know so much has been said about him, and people are going to jump on the comments probably saying, oh, you guys are just stargazing and things like that. But no, like, I've got no reason to like Reece Walsh. I've been actually really critical of him in the past, like super critical. I don't like the Broncos. I don't have any reason to be sugarcoating them either. Like, if anything, I'd love a chance to blast them, but you've got to call it sometimes and just say, like, they were bloody fantastic. Like, and Reece Walsh was fantastic. And yep, there was a couple of controversial moments, but like I said at the start of this podcast, almost every gun game that you can remember had controversial moments in it. Like, it's just what goes hand in hand. So I actually think it's right up there. I know that you may need a few more days or weeks to go back and maybe look at things again with it and see. I'm not too sure where you put it. Obviously, off the losing end of it might impact it slightly, but yeah, it was right up there for me. Right up there. What about you?
It's top 5. I've got 3 other games in front of it, but the one game that I want to talk about that I think is huge for me was that Cowboys Broncos GF in 2015. That to me was probably the number one game, even that. And then the second game was 2016. Unfortunately, that was the Storm loss to the Sharks. And then the next game that I really liked, that was my top 3, was that Broncos Penrith game 2023. That's my top 3. That it's top 5, but that's my top 3. It was a good question. I liked it. There's a lot of people walking around and posting comments and questions about what their moments are. It's one of those very subjective, agenda pushing topics. But it was a good game. It was a spectacularly good game because it was close, and there was moments and storylines that make it. Yeah, as a Storm fan, I probably don't rate it as high because of it, but yeah, it's still top 5 for me.
I feel like when we rate things, when you can always find a game at a grand final that goes down to the final play, I think that naturally just straight away it puts it straight up into the top echelon of games, knowing just how good it was. And it got to the point where it literally was either team could have won it in the final play, which is fantastic. Before we go, just a quick shout out to the ratings as well, to everyone out there who watched the greatest game of all, and the best game at the NRL Grand Final last night. Apparently, the ratings were through the roof. We've seen it all, the posts and that. I think the highest rating TV show or whatever they call it for the whole year, beating maths and everything. Like, they beat everything. So that's unreal because obviously 2 huge draw cards. The Melbourne Storm get a massive rating in Melbourne, and there was nothing on to watch apart from the grand final with the Storm in it. Obviously, the Broncos as well. And then just naturally, Sydney side are going to watch it because it's the NRL Grand Final. So it was a great mix and probably something that Channel 9 absolutely loved. The telecast, I didn't notice anything real bad with the telecast either. I think it was okay.
Really?
There'll be some out there who will criticize the 4K, but to be honest with you, I'm not that big on that. I couldn't give a rat's really. HD for me is good enough.
It's a disgrace. We're in 2025. It's a disgrace. And the Channel 9 broadcast yesterday was shithouse. It was shit. The commentating was shit. It's boring. The product, this is the premier product. It just dumbfounds me how we're in 2025. It's the biggest game and premier product, and you don't stream it in the best way you can, but you stream the Dally M in the 4K. It's just garbage, man. That was a really bad product, and there are lots and lots and lots of people out there are calling for Foxtel to get it next year or get it as soon as they can. But there's some serious questions. I said it last year. I'll say it again, and I'll continue this bat because it's just ridiculous.
Do you reckon, I'll just be quick with this one because we do need to go, but do you reckon because it's a grand final, I know it's different networks and things like that, but we have the best players on there. We want the best referee, things like that. Don't you reckon there should be some kind of mutual agreement where they go, we have the best caller call the game as well? Because I think it's fair to say that the Fox probably have the top 2 in my eyes. I think, and you can have them in any rating, but I think Vossi and Ganane are probably the 2 best rugby league commentators. For me personally, anyway, I love their energy, what they bring to games, the moments and things like that. For me, they're shit on what Channel 9 do. I can't remember the bloke's name, unfortunately, no disrespect, but I don't think he's fantastic at calling that. And I think that every time we watch Origin as well, obviously we miss the Rabs, the voice of this fantastic game. But Vossi and Ganane, for me, simply just get those moments. They really raise the roof when they need to and things like that. And I just think it would be nice at some point. I know they're at wall almost 24/7, the 2 networks and things like that. But it would be cool to get to a point where we can go the grandest stage of them all, get our best commentator to go in, have the old days, have him in with like Gus and stuff, like Vossi or whatever. I think it'd be a nice touch.
Get your best commentators, get your best analysis, and get the best cameras and stream it the best way you can for the best game or the biggest game and the most important game of the year. It's a no-brainer. It just makes no sense to me that we put that shit. Yeah, it's free to air. Like, I get it because it's the biggest game. We put it on free to air so everyone can watch it. Like, I understand that. But no, it just does my head in that we're in 2025 and that's the product they want to put out for the grand final. Yeah, it's just a disgrace.
That is it, guys. That is the end of regular proceedings when it comes to the League of Inches podcast for the year. So no more Supercoach, no more previews or review shows, no more live streams for a little bit. So we'll be doing a weekly sort of news sort of show. Isaac will be coming back as well, which will be awesome. We'll talk a little bit about the international games as well. We are attending the Suncorp game, the Samoa versus Tonga game. So a bit more about that closer to that date. We might do a little event if we can at the Caxton Street Brewing Company. It would be pretty cool to do. There'll be a lot of great atmosphere there. But do keep around. Like I said, we're doing at least one every week. We've got a few big specials coming up. We've got the season reviews part 1 and part 2. I don't really like to keep going back to part 1. It should be done and done, but we get those happening. Then we've got the pub talk with a few of our fellow best mates in the creator world, which we're really looking forward to as well. So plenty of really cool, exciting things to come, and the social media posts and talking and all that sort of thing will still be there. So we're not really going anywhere, but the podcast side of things will definitely come back a little bit there. So thank you to everyone out there who has listened and streamed, liked, shared, whatever it is. It helps us grow. You continue to help us grow. Following that has been fantastic this year. Really do appreciate it. Keep telling your mates about us. Keep talking. Keep sharing, all that sort of thing. We will be back before you know it, talking things to come next year. Obviously, big shout out. We've got Supercoach, obviously, our off-season stuff that you all love when we start going big deep dives into each team and things like that. That'll be happening once again. Shout out to all the team behind the scenes who do a fantastic job for us. It's really appreciate it. No, I really do appreciate it. Thanks to all the guys that jump on and do the podcast. It's a very daunting position, guys. We're not one of those big ones like the Bloke or the Gurus and stuff like that. We're not on the big bucks. And what it is, the daunting side of it is that you open yourself up to criticism, and they're all acceptable of that. And we know it comes with the game, so I really do appreciate those that come on out of their own time for an hour or two each week to give you their thoughts and entertain you guys, whether you're in the car, going to work, at work, whatever it is, mowing the lawn. You're giving us your time. We really do appreciate it. Finally, a special one to Trav, who for me is always there to help me get a bit of content out for you guys. Podcasts like tonight, very easy for a Storm fan to say, no way I am fucking talking about the Storm. But he didn't. He's more than happy to always jump on. And I think the biggest thing is he always wants to come on for you guys and give you something. And I really do appreciate everything he does. He does a hell of a lot. So thank you very much, Trav. You'll obviously be around at some point throughout the off-season. We've got a few things lined up. But for regular season proceedings, thank you very much.
No worries, man. Appreciate that. Hey, thanks for your kind words.
No worries, mate. Thank you.
I don't have words now. I'm lost for words. Thank you.
Thank you all. And again, thank you to Caxton Street Brewing Company, major sponsor for this year, is on board still for next year, which we're really excited about, and throughout the off season. Make sure you go down there, get yourselves a drink, get yourselves a bite to eat. But we are League of Inches podcast signing off for 2025 season. Speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.